So the point is, in due course of time, Krishna's attributes and Balram's attributes got amalgamated, and they also had Greek legends and stories also amalgamated, and this new personality called as Heracles was created, which we came to know in later period of time, and eventually he came to be known as the great Hercules. Like for example, the word Kerala, all the way down south, that word is mentioned in the Mahabharata. The earliest reference to the word Kerala, it's from the Mahabharata, it's not from anywhere else. Gandhar kingdom, Gandhari is from there, Shakuni is from there. Then Bhalika, Balk, Armenia. Armenia had worship of Krishna.
Chandruji, welcome. Namaste, Chandruji. Namaste.
Namaste, Ravishankar.
Namaste, Chandruji.
Vidya ji, with the introduction.
Namaste and a very warm welcome to one and all. It's with a lot of anticipation and happiness that I introduce our speaker for today, Shri Chandru Ramesh. Chandruji is a dedicated researcher, an avid traveler, an accomplished author, a historian, and a committed speaker focusing on Indology as well as ancient Indian history. Chandruji, who hails from Chennai, Tamil Nadu, was a spiritual seeker right from his teenage days. He initially worked as a software engineer in HCL Technologies and also served in the war-afflicted areas of Sri Lanka for almost 4 years. Eventually, Chandruji gave up his well-paying job in 2012 so as to pursue his deep interest and research work in ancient Indian history, particularly the authenticity of the ancient epic or Itihasa of Bharat, the Mahabharat. For this purpose, he traveled well across Bharat, Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asia. Chandruji went on to work and do research for nearly 5 years so as to collect data from several academic disciplines that include archaeology, epigraphy, numismatics, etc., as well as petroglyphs, sculptures, ancient inscriptions, and coins. He also studied and deeply referred from the Vedic, Buddhist, Jain, Greek, and ancient Tamil Sangam literatures. Based on the extensive research data and content, Chandruji authored a groundbreaking book, Mahabharata, Myth or History, which presents over 300 pieces of evidence and over 1,000 citations, thus offering a comprehensive and well-supported argument that puts forward an irrefutable evidence-based account of Bhagavan Sri Krishna and the Mahabharata. This authoritative book by Chandruji clearly provides a new perspective on one of the world's largest, most ancient, and widely studied epics. Chandruji is also a highly sought-after speaker. He has presented his work at various universities, Hindu communities, student groups, forums, temples, podcasts, etc., all over Bharat as well as abroad. Chandruji is also the director of Historica Foundations, leading dedicated work that help establish Bharat's true historical narrative through books, documentaries, and training in historical research. It's indeed an honor to have you amongst us here on this platform of Satyameva Jayate. Thank you so much for joining us, Chandruji. Over to you, Ravi. Mic is yours.
Thank you. Chandruji, the next session, next part is actually now completely for you to present the topic. I'm handing over the mic to you. And once you are done with the presentation, please let me know and we will open it for questions.
Okay, namaste. Thank you all for this wonderful opportunity today evening. And just 2 days before the grand opening at Ayodhya, and I'm here speaking on the historical evidences of the Mahabharata, it's indeed a great, great honor to be able to speak on this topic. So, as you all may know, that if you see the background of ancient India for the last 1,000 years, we have faced a lot of invasions, colonialism, attacks, and whatnot. In spite of all that, today we are seeing, especially in this century, especially we are seeing a revival of dharmic culture. People are wanting to come back to dharmic culture. They are searching out for yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, and whatnot. Right? So in that same space, we see that, in fact, the whole world is celebrating right now, not only from the Hindu community or from India. We are seeing people from various backgrounds celebrating the revival of the temple in Ayodhya. So one thing we can understand that there is a lot of change in the mindset in India, what it was before and what it is now. So with this small context and with this small background, I would like to start today's presentation. So I think Ravishankar ji had done a comprehensive introduction about what I do and about myself. So without further delay, I'll quickly start. So today's topic is basically touching upon the historical evidences of the Mahabharata. So we all know that Ramayana is based on Lord Ram, Sri Ramachandra, and he appeared in Ayodhya, and so we all know the story. But in terms of Mahabharata, it's a very unique literature, a Mahakavya, because here Bhagwan is not, matlab, Vishnu, right, who is the main character. If you see, actually, it is based on the Bharata Vamsha, Bharatas. That's why it's called as Mahabharat. Because we all know the Pandavas, Kauravas, and everyone else, they belong to the Bharata Vamsha. They are called as the Bharatas. And of course, if I'm able to show the PPT to you all, that will be really fascinating. Then I could show the inscriptions and all that. But anyway, we have these videos will come up later. So I'll touch upon these points and we'll move through it very quickly. So this is the book Mahabharat Myth or History. This is available on Amazon. You could also check it out, the reviews and everything else. It's one of the best-selling books in terms of Mahabharata's historicity. When we say historicity, it's basically historical evidences. So in India, in ancient India, we have two Mahakavyas. Epic is not the exact word for Mahakavya, but that's what we have. We cannot have an exact translation for the term Mahakavya, but that is what it is. We have the word epic. So in English, we call this literature as an epic, although the most appropriate word is Mahakavya. So Mahabharata is a Mahakavya of 1 lakh shlokas. So my book is not about the evidences, it's not about the Mahakavya itself. It's not about the Mahabharata story that the Bharata Vamshas or Krishna, the Mahabharata war. It's not all about that. This book is about the evidence part, that Mahabharata is historical. It is not mythology. Where and all we have found the evidences, right? Like, for example, evidences in inscriptions, evidences in coins, Vedic literature, Buddhist literature, right? And Tamil Sangha Ilakyam, Sangam literature, and ancient cave paintings, ancient statues, right? And archaeological evidences, marine archaeological finds, and so on. So this research and this book is very unique in the sense that I do not depend on one branch of knowledge. Like generally historians and researchers nowadays, what they do, they take one branch, like say astronomy. They take the astronomical data and then they map it onto the software. And based on that, they say, okay, in the software, we find these particular constellations and formations. And based on that, what all matching happens in the software, like, what is there in the text, the Mahabharata text, they try to match it with the software. And if both match, right, they both get corroborated. Based on that, they give the dating of the Mahabharata as so and so. I'm giving a very simplistic way, very simplistic explanation of how they do it. But my approach is very unique. It has no complex astronomical derivations, mathematical formulas, or any such things as such. It's a very straightforward derivation. Where and all we have found evidences, be it inscriptions, coins, Vedic literature, Buddhist literature, archaeology, and so on. So all that evidences has been compiled into one single book. For the first time in history, so many evidences compiled into one single book. This is the first book of its kind for the first time in history, which gives the historical evidences of the Mahabharata. So with this context, we start today's seminar. So as you can see, these are all several famous personalities who have, those who are listening in Clubhouse, these are like Major General G.D. Bakshi, Colonel Arjan Singh, and I've given lectures in top institutes like the IITs, ISER, YMCA, and so on, right? So with this quick context, we'll start today's seminar. Yeah, while it's loading, so I'll quickly continue with the topic in hand. So you see, there are historians in India whose research is being followed, or rather, I would say whose incorrect research has been followed in India. for a very long period of time. Like this famous historian, she says that Yudhishthir was inspired by Ashoka. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that Yudhishthir was inspired by Ashoka? How is that possible? How is it possible? Like, for example, can we say, right, Gandhi was inspired by Modi? Can we say that? There's no way we can say that, because Gandhi came first, Modi came later. But this is the kind of things which are there, unfortunately. So you see, the theory, the fact is that Mahabharata happened much before, right? And the records of the Mahabharata are recorded. The evidences of the Mahabharata are recorded in the ancient Buddhist literature, known as the Jatakas. Now we have evidences of the Mahabharata in Jatakas. And after the Jataka period, we see Ashoka converting to Buddhism, right? So how come Yudhishthir can be placed after Ashoka? Because the literature before him, the Jatakas, are referring to Yudhishthir as the son of Pandu, right? I hope all of you got this point. So that is the kind of unfortunate position in India, that we are following incorrect and fallacious research, fallacious books, right? So with this context, as you can see, so what are the facts? The facts is that, and also we have this famous controversy which recently happened. A Tamil Nadu politician said, destroy Sanatan Dharma, as if to mean to say we are different from Sanatan Dharma, right? Those who follow Sanatan Dharma are Aryans and we are Dravidians, right? But the fact of the matter is, in ancient Sangam literature, we have tons and tons of references which shows that they are all one culture all across Bharat. All across Bharat. It's not that, Tamil people are different and Kashmiris are different. We are all one. Even during the Mahabharata war, we had Maharaj Yudhishthir as a Samrat, and we have different kings who were reporting, right? They had their own kingdoms, but he was the Samrat, right? So that's why we have references to the Mahabharata war in the ancient Sangam literature. Although Sangam literature is found all the way far down south, we have evidences of the Mahabharata war mentioned in the ancient Sangam literature going back to 2300 or 2400 years, like this Perumpana Truppade. It refers to the war between the 5 Pandavas and the 100 Kauravas. Then we have references of the war, of the battle between Bhima and Duryodhana in Kalitogai poem 101. Then we have the references of Lakshagriha. Lakshagriha, we all know that, Duryodhan wanted to burn alive the Pandavas, right? He wanted to burn alive the Pandavas. So they somehow escaped because they knew, that this is going to happen, because Vidur gave the clue. Vidur gave the clue, right? So they understood and they went inside the tunnel and they came out. This particular story has also been referred in the ancient Sangam literature, Kalitogai, poem 25. And Pandya kings compared with Krishna and Balram in Purananuru 56, 3-7. We find that the kings are being glorified and they are being compared with various gods, including Balram and Krishna. Balram as the white-bodied person and Krishna as the dark-bodied. Not only this, we have poetic landscapes, like for example, Kurunji, Mullai, Marudam, Neidal, Palai, the 5 lands of ancient Tamil Nadu, or we could say the ancient Tamil people had these 5 lands, Kurunji, Mullai, Marudam, Neidal, Palai, right? So these 5 lands, and one of these lands was Mullai, which is called as the forest land. And the god of the forest land was Mayon. Mayon, Mayavan, Manivannan, Mamanivannan, and so on. Nedumal, Tirumal. These are all names of either Vishnu or Krishna. So Krishna, although he was born and he grew up in Mathura, Vrindavan, these areas, but he is being referred as one of the gods of the ancient Tamil people. So this all shows the unified identity. It is not that divisiveness or separatism is not shown in the ancient Sangam literature. So these are the Sangam literatures. We have Ilakkanam, which is the grammatical text, Sangha Ilakyam, which is the Sangam literatures, which has 2 categories, 18 Mel Kanakku, 18 Keel Kanakku. which means the 18 earlier Sangam and the 18 later Sangam. Then we have the 5 Kavya literatures, which are the Ain Perum Kavyangal. So, is the Mahabharata a myth or history? Now, leaving aside the Tamil Sangam literature, is the Mahabharata a myth or history? So then we go to the source, the roots of it, right? So we find in Chandogya Upanishad, a very ancient Upanishad, we find which refers to Itihas and Purana as the fifth Veda. Itihas and Puran as the fifth Veda. So what is Itihas? Itihasa. Thus, so happened. Right? So we have references of Itihasas being authentic text all the way going back to the Vedic period. And we all know what are the two Itihasas, Ramayana and Mahabharata. So Itihasas are getting the status of a fifth Veda. Now you can imagine if some literature is getting the status of a fifth Veda, that much was it important during the Vedic, when the Vedas were compiled, when the Upanishads are being compiled, right? So not only this, now the thing is that when we speak of Mahabharata, generally we hear this comment, oh, the Mahabharata is just 1,000 years old, it's just 1,500 years old. It was just recently created. It is a post-Buddhist phenomena. It is not so ancient. But the fact of the matter is, Mahabharata is quite ancient, so much so that it was intermingled with the Indian culture. That even when the Greeks came inside, see, this is a 2,000-year-old Greek reference. Greek writer Dion Chrysostom, he mentions that the Indians possessed an epic like an Iliad, right? Which is of 1 lakh verses, 100,000 verses. So it's one and only the Mahabharata. There is no other literature which was 100,000 or 1 lakh verses except the Mahabharata, right? So we find that the Mahabharata was an intrinsic part of Indian culture, Indian psyche, right? Then we have, when we go deeper again to the Vedic sources, we find the Griha Sutra of Ashwalayana. He says in Adhyaya 3 and Kandika 4, we find the references to the literature called as Mahabharata. Sumantu, Jaimini, Vaishampayana, Paila, Sutra, Bhashya, Bharata, and Mahabharata. So these are all the literatures mentioned in the Griha Sutra of Ashwalayana. So do we have evidences apart from literature? Yes, we do have. This is a 2,300-year-old cave painting. Those who are hearing, they can imagine that there are 3 cave paintings. One of Krishna, Balram, and a female figure. Some call it as Ekanamsa, some identify it as Subhadra. And scholars, many of them believe that this is the earliest recorded evidences of what we in India understand as Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra. Right? So this is kind of, a very ancient cave painting, 2,300-year-old. And you can see in one hand, the central figure is holding a chakra. And the figure on the right, he is holding a hull or a plow. Balram is holding a plow. Right? So this is the earliest cave paintings referring to Krishna and Balram. Then we have these inscriptions from Vrindavan. When we go from Vrindavan to Govardhan, on the way, there is a village which is called as Mora. So during excavations in this village, they found an ancient well, right? And in the inner surfaces of the well, we find inscriptions which says, which refers to the 5 Vrishnis. We all know that the 5 Pandavas were very famous, but this is a new information that the 5 Yadavas or the 5 Vrishnis were also very famous. Who were these 5 Vrishnis? We'll come to it in the next slide. So these are the 5 Vrishnis in the Kondamattu panel in Guntur, Andhra Pradesh. This is 1,700-year-old in Andhra Pradesh. So now try to understand, something which is found an inscription in Vrindavan is being confirmed. Now that inscription is more than 2,000 years old. And this is a sculptural panel. Sculptural panel means it's a stone and they are carved in that. So there are 5 figures here, right? These are the 5 Vrishnis carved here. So what is there in inscription? Panchvir Vrishni. And we have in the sculptures 5 Vrishnis again. Now who are these 5 Vrishnis? That's mentioned in Vayu Purana, right? Balram, Vasudev Krishna, Pradyumna, Samba, Aniruddha. These are the 5 Vrishnis. So what is found in literature is being confirmed in a sculptural panel in Andhra Pradesh is being confirmed in an inscription in Vrindavan. That is again further confirmed in the Tamil Sangha Ilakyam, Tamil Sangam literature, where the 5 Vrishnis or the 5 Yadavas are glorified as Ain Perum Velir, the 5 big Velirs. Right? So now coming to the Kuru family lineage, we have Pratipa, Devapi, Shantanu, Bahalika, Bhishma, Vichitravirya, and so on. So when we study the Kuru family lineage, we find that, the 5 Pandavas are connected to Pandu, and they go through Vichitravirya to Shantanu and then further up to Pratipa. Now, are these figures historical? So we find this is the Kuru family lineage. We have Pratipa, and then there is Devapi, Shantanu, Bahalika. These were the 3 sons. So are there historical evidences of these Kurus? That we will see in the upcoming slides, which I'll also describe it here. So are the Kurus historical? So in the Kuru family, we find the most important person was Dhritarashtra. And he wanted to keep the throne with himself, right? And is Dhritarashtra historical? Yes, absolutely historical. Now in the Krishna Yajurveda, we have Dhritarashtra. There was a king. There's a king being mentioned as Dhritarashtra, who is the son of Vichitravirya. Right? I'm repeating again, in the Krishna Yajurveda, Dhritarashtra is mentioned as the son of Vichitravirya. Now, as we saw in the previous slide, is Dhritarashtra the son of Vichitravirya? And according to Mahabharata, is Dhritarashtra the son of Vichitravirya? Absolutely yes. Right? And according to Mahabharata, son of Vichitravirya, according to what we all know, he's son of Vichitravirya. So the same Vichitravirya's son, Dhritarashtra, is mentioned in the Yajurveda and also mentioned in the Mahabharata. And Yajurveda further mentions that this Dhritarashtra is the ruler of the Kuru Panchal region. The Kurus and Panchalas, that region was being ruled by Dhritarashtra. This is mentioned not in the Mahabharata, in the Veda, Yajurveda. The same thing is confirmed again in the Mahabharata. Yajurveda also informed that he is a descendant of the Bharata Vamsha. Same thing confirmed in the Mahabharata. Right? And his descendants are not mentioned, whereas the Mahabharata mentions that the descendants of Dhritarashtra were Kauravas, and then they all passed, and then we have Pandavas, and their descendants are mentioned in the Mahabharata and the other literatures. So one thing which is proven is that the Kurus are not some imaginary characters. Dhritarashtra, Pandavas, Kauravas, Bhishma, Pratipa, Shantanu, Devapi, these are not imaginary characters. They actually existed in history. And then we have the Yadava lineage, the Yadava branch, where Krishna comes. So is Krishna historical? Yes, absolutely. We have this inscription. You can check out in online. This is the inscription referring to Vasudeva, 2,300-year-old inscription, which is also called as the Heliodorus pillar or the base Nagar column. Right? In this base Nagar column, we have references to the Vasudeva, the famous personality named as Vasudeva. So this inscription is carved by a Greek messenger from Takshashila, which is today called as Taxila. So Takshashila, and then Takhila, and probably from there it became Taxila. The British call it as Takshila. So this famous personality, he comes to India, modern India. He comes from Takshila, which is also, from going back to 5,000 years, was part of Bharata anyway. So he's coming from Takshashila, and then he's constructing a pillar. In this pillar, he is calling himself as a Bhagavad. Bhagavad means a devotee. He says this Garuda pillar of Vasudeva, who is the god of gods, was constructed here by Heliodorus the Bhagavad. Right? So we find that the inscriptions, the earliest undecoded inscriptions, right, are somewhat older than this, but the earliest decipherable inscriptions are around 3rd century BC in India, Ashokan rock edicts. So this particular inscription is just a century later after that. Then we have these Nanaghat cave inscriptions in Maharashtra, 2nd century BC, approximately 2,200 years. So this inscription invokes the name of Sankarshana and Vasudeva. Namo Sankarshana Vasudevanam Chamdasutanam Mahivatanam. Glories to the 2 sons of the moon dynasty, Sankarshana and Vasudeva. So clearly shows that Sankarshana and Vasudeva were actually persons who came because they are in Moon dynasty, Chandra Vamsha. Not like, godly figures who are in, like who never came and appeared, took avatar, and they're actually coming. They're actually here, physically present on planet Earth. That's the kind of data being given in this inscription, that they belong to the Chandra Vamsha. Then we have these coins from Afghanistan, Agathocles coins. Agathocles was a king, and to honor Krishna and Balram, he issued coins, which is the Vasudev coin and the Samkrishna coin. In the Vasudev coin, we find Vasudeva is holding a chakra, and Samkrishna is holding a hull and a gada. Hull is a plow, gada is a mace. So we find here in the Indo-Greek script the term Samkrishna and Vasudeva. So these are coins found in Ikonum in Takhar province of Afghanistan, which is now in which is approximately placeable to the Gandhar region during Mahabharata period, the Gandhar. Then we have Athikumpa inscriptions of Kharavela, just on the outskirts of Bhubaneswar, Odisha. So this inscription compares the childhood activities of King Kharavela with the pranks and sports of Krishna in Vrindavan. Right? Then we have Ghata Jataka, Buddhist literature, 2300 years old Buddhist literature. Here, Kamsa is the king of Uttarapatha, or the northern region. His sister is Devagabba, which is derived from the Sanskrit word Devaki. And Devagabba or Devaki had two sons, Vasudeva and Baladeva. These two sons of Devagabba are exchanged with Nandagopa. Okay, Nandagopa's children. Nandagopa is none other than Nanda, the father of Krishna, foster father of Krishna. So then they grow up in the pastoral lands of Braj, and then they come back and they engage in a wrestling match with Chanura and Mushtika. And then they defeat Kamsa, and they arrive at Dwaravati and make it their home. Right? So all this story, see, Dwaravati is nothing but Dwaraka. So can you see that this entire story of Krishna, as found in the Itihasas and Puranas, are replicated in the Buddhist literatures? But of course, they have a Buddhist flavor and the Buddhist twist to it. But they have referred to it as an actual event and actual personalities of the past, not as some imaginary or mythological persons. Krishna and Balram were actual historical persons according to Buddhist literatures. Then we have Kunal Jataka, circa 2300 years old. This is the most interesting one. It says, Kunal Jataka says that Pandu had 5 sons, Arjuna, Nakula, Bhimasena, Yudhishthira and Sahadeva. Right? It's pronounced in a Pali way, in Pali language. Arjuna, Nakula, Bhimasena, Yudhishthira and Sahadeva. We all know who these 5 are. It also describes the Swayamvar ceremony and all that. So again, a Buddhist adaptation of Itihasas and stories of Mahabharata from Itihasas and Puranas. So now coming to the Yadavas. Are the Yadavas historical? Yes, absolutely historical. We have reference to the Yadavas in Rig Veda, in Mahabharata, in the Puranas, in inscriptions, in coins and whatnot. So Yadava generally means a descendant of Yadu. If they come in the Yadu line, they are called as Yadava. So Krishna belongs to the Satvata, Vrishni, Yadava lineage. These are the primary kings: Satvata, Vrishni, Shaurasena, Vasudeva, and then Krishna. And Krishna had Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Vajranabha as the descendants after him. So then, coming to the question of political geography. Are the political details, the geographical details given in Mahabharata factual? Let's see it from the perspective of the Buddhist literature. So, in the Buddhist literature known as Anguttara Nikaya, we have 16 Mahajanapadas, 16 greater kingdoms of the Buddhist period: Kashi, Koshalanga, Magadha, Vajji, Malla, Chedi, Vatsa, Kuru, Panchal, Matsya, Shurasena, Asaka, Avanti, Gandhar, Kamboja. Out of the 16 Mahajanapadas, or the greater kingdoms, many of them are also mentioned in the Mahabharata, which means that these kingdoms are coming down from the Mahabharata period and they had a continuous history going back to the Mahabharata period. Right? So, like for example, the Kuru kingdom also existed during the Mahabharata period. They are also existing during the Buddhist period. So what we understand is that India actually has a continuous recorded history going back to thousands of years. If the Buddhist literatures are referring to these 16 kingdoms, and many of them are also mentioned in the Mahabharata, so what do we understand? That Mahabharata is describing actual political geography, actual landscape, political landscape, right? And that has transformed or adapted in a different way. And we found a certain 16 Mahajanapadas during the Buddhist period. So coming back to the point of the Kurus, are the Kurus historical? Absolutely historical. Pandavas, Kauravas, Dhritarashtra, Bhishma, and others. So we have reference to the Kurus in Rig Veda, Chandogya Upanishad, Taittiriya Aranyaka, Ashtadhyayi of Panini, and whatnot. Several literatures have references to the Kurus, the historical Kurus. The Kunti kingdom is also historical, the Kunti Bhoja kingdom, right? They are also historical. Then we have reference to the Bahalika, very interesting. So in my book, I have covered more than 35 of these Mahabharata kingdoms and I have shown evidences of them. But in this presentation, I'm covering only a few. One of them, very interesting one, is the Bahalika. So if you remember, I described earlier that there were three sons, right? There were three sons, Devapi, Shantanu, and Bahalika. Shantanu or Shantanu, interchangeably he is called, either Shantanu or Shantanu. So Bahalika was the third. The first one was Devapi, second one was Shantanu, third one was Bahalika. So the descendants of the Bahalika, right, they went and settled all the way across into northern Afghanistan. So the background was, we all know that Devapi was supposed to be the king, but he could not be the king because he had some physical deformities. So due to various scenarios which happened in the kingdom, he decided to leave and he became a renunciate. He became a detached from everything, and he went to the forest to do tapasya. So the second son, Shantanu, he became the king. And the third son, Bahalika, he did not choose to rule that kingdom or stake any claim there. But his descendants chose to go far and far and far and settled in what we today know as the northern Afghanistan region, which came to be known as Bahalika. Right? And today, this Bahalika is known as Balkh. Now, ask any Afghani, what does it mean by Balkh? People there do not know. But the fact of the matter is, they are all descendants of the Kuru kingdom. Right? The Kuru kingdom, along with its descendants, along with many of their followers, have in most probability shifted from here, from the Kuru region, and settled all the way up till northern Afghanistan. Right? But people there today have no clue of their ancient past. So this is in the map, Balkh region, which derives its name from Bahalika. So these are the most ancient statues of Krishna, Balram, and Ekanamsa, also sometimes identified as Subhadra. This is in Deoghar, Uttar Pradesh, 2,200 years old. So we can go on and on and on and on. I could show evidences from Dwarka. Like for example, in Dwarka, we found evidences of inscriptions which says Mahakachchasapaha, right? Found by the great Dr. S.R. Rao, which is an offering to the sea god, right? Mahakachchasapaha. Apaha means water, right? So we have found inscriptions in Dwarka. We have found swords dating back to 4,800 years or 4,900 years, which could even approximately be 5,000 years. We have found weapons going back to the traditional dating of the Mahabharata. We have inscriptions, more than hundreds and hundreds of inscriptions. To be precise, more than 400 inscriptions, which refer to the year of Kali Yuga. Some of them refer to the year of Mahabharat war. Some of them refer to the Yudhishthir Shaka. So we have inscriptions going back to so many hundreds of years. And all of them precisely date the Mahabharata to 3101 BCE. So my research is unique in that way that I do not depend on astronomical calculations as the prima facie, as the prime evidence. Because inscriptions which have been recorded for hundreds and hundreds of years have a greater gravity over softwares, because when you put data in softwares and try to map them, right, we have this difficulty that we do not have sufficient data sets to verify. Like for example, I 26 September 3067 BC, I took a certain date and I put that in Voyager software, and then I put that also in the Stellarium software. They're all very, both of them are very famous and quite often used by the Mahabharata researchers today. And to my astonishment, the sky maps presented in both of these softwares differed from each other. They were not the same, and both of them are scientifically credible softwares. And in karinasoft.com, which is the one of the official websites of Voyager, they mention that inaccuracies of 10% or more can be found going to dates beyond 500 BC, which means if you map dates beyond 500 BC, like 600 BC, 700 BC, 1000 BC, 2000 BC, we can expect inaccuracies of 10% or more. And 10% or more is a lot, especially when you map, going back to 5,000 years or 7,000, 8,000 years. So my point here in dating for the Mahabharata is that we should depend on inscriptions, which are hardcore facts, hardcore evidences which are in front of us, or we should depend on archaeology, and not solely on astronomy. Astronomy is definitely a valid evidence, but it can support the hard facts which we have found in our research, and not the other way around. Right? So to conclude, the Western historians or the Western scholars for a very long period of time have attacked our history, calling it as mythology. Like for example, Raymond Schwab in the Oriental Renaissance, he says, the Indians cannot understand that our religion, Christianity, is a universal religion for earth, and that the Indians, can only produce mere fables and fantasies. But we differ from it because we have evidences. This is not mere fables and fantasies. We have hardcore evidences, being inscriptions, be it coins, be it Vedic literature, Buddhist literature, Greek literature, Chinese literature, Tamil Sangam literature, all the way up till the Muslim period of the Mughals. Even the Mughals, during the Mughal period, we have this court poet of Akbar by the name of Abu Fazl. Abu Fazl says that this site is believed to be the place where Maharaj Yudhishthir was ruling. What is that site? That site is, he is referring to where the tomb of Humayun was there. Like, the place where Humayun's tomb is there, he is pointing to that, approximating that location. And he says, 4,500 years back, this was the place where Maharaj Yudhishthir used to rule. This is the common belief. So he even is agreeing or coming in line with that possibility. So this, and even Buddhist literature, Jain literature, Tamil Sangam, Greek, Chinese, Vedas, Puranas, everywhere, Mahabharata has been accepted as historical, never as mythology. So this mythology narrative was spread for the first time during the British colonial period, because they could see that Mahabharata could be a factor for dharmic awakening, like Dharma Yuddha. Let's fight a Dharma Yuddha and chase the British away. Right? So that's why, unfortunately, many big politicians of India, they did not want to follow the Gita, although they claimed themselves as follower of the Gita. They said the 5 Pandavas are, like the 5 senses and whatnot. Like, the 5 senses, we have the eyes, ear, it's the sense of seeing, the sense of hearing. So the 5 Pandavas are like the 5 senses and whatnot. Krishna is like this and whatnot. So all this is given to bring down the historical impact or the connections which we could feel with the Mahabharata. Right? So, but the reality is the Mahabharata is not imaginary. It's history. It's our history. It's Bharat's history. When we say Mahabharata, it means the greater Bharat. And the greater Bharat was vast. It was huge. And it has become khandit, and we have a small piece of land which we today call it as India. Again, that is an incorrect name. The word India does not make sense by any means, because it's a mispronunciation. Megasthenes, when he came to India, he called this land as Indica. Again, that is a mispronunciation of a previous word. So Indica became India. So India does not mean anything grammatically or etymologically. It has no sense of no value or no importance or no clarity or no credible meaning as such. So this country's name is Bharata, and the history of this great land is described in the Mahabharata, the greater Bharata. So the word Mahabharata could also be seen from the lineage point of view, the Bharata Vamsha's history. It could also be seen from the political geography, Mahabharata, the greater Bharata, right? So these are different ways which we could understand the term Mahabharata. So with this, I conclude that why this research is important, because more than 1,000 years we have been under foreign attacks, and the easiest way to discard a religion, culture, tradition is just call it as mythology. So how we can discover a lost glory is by understanding the importance of Mahabharata in our lives. Mahabharata literally means the greater Bharat. So another important reason why I'm doing this is because we want our youngsters to be connected to the glorious knowledge given by our ancestors in literatures like the Mahabharata and so on, the Gita. So when the Mahabharata is accepted as historical, naturally the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita would also make more sense, because we'll start connecting it as an actual historical event, and Krishna as an actual person with whom we could feel connections to, and we could accept and follow and transform our lives. Not only our lives, but the lives of our family, country, and humanity at large. Right? So the last slide here, that this book is unique. This Mahabharat myth or history book is unique in the sense that it has no complex mathematical, astronomical, or archaeological analysis, although it has all the evidence of it. I have given it in a very simple form that even a layman can get that point, that Mahabharata is not mythology. Although the research behind this is hardcore, but the presentation is very simple. Because if you read some of the researchers who try to prove that the Mahabharata is historical, you would not understand even half a page of what they're trying to say. Why? Because it's too complex, too many equations, too many hypotheses and statements and all that. Mine is very simple. I've like, for example, you have so many complicated things related to the evidences of the Mahabharata, simplified and presented in a chapter-wise format. One chapter dedicated to the Vedic evidences, one chapter dedicated to the Buddhist literature's evidences, one chapter dedicated to inscriptions and coins and so on, one chapter to archaeology, one chapter to foreign travelers, and so on. And this book is unique in the sense that we in India can use it to defend our history. It has more than 300 plus data points backed up by 1,000 plus citations. So with this, I conclude, and I thank you so much, Ravishankar ji, for Satyameva Jayate channel for this wonderful opportunity. And I also thank all those who are listening in Clubhouse, in our channel, patiently listening and getting value from this podcast. Thank you so much.
Vidya ji, you said like you have a few questions. Go ahead.
Yeah. Chandru ji, first of all, thank you so much for the talk. Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you, you had mentioned earlier about a specific politician statement. So how do you respond after going through so much of extensive research, of our sacred texts, especially with the generalization of our scriptures and the dharma being evil? What is your direct response to people like this?
My direct response would be to just open your eyes and see. That's what I would say. And if you can see, if you're still in illusion, then probably consult some scholars who know the facts. And but still, we all know that why some politicians don't want to accept the facts. We all know they have their limitations behind it. But my direct response would be that I would insist that they check the facts and speak. That would be beneficial for themselves and for their followers and for the nation in general.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chandru ji. We have Prahlad on our speaker panel. Prahlad, you can unmute and ask your question.
Sir, thank you. First of all, Jai Sri Ram to everyone. Thank you, sir, for making this happen. First of all, for the moderator, and thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts on the Mahabharatas. So I just have a question on the Rishyasringa, where he's a guy. He comes in Mahabharata itself. So there is so Rishyasringa was not aware of there is another creature called female also. So whenever when he met first time he met a female, so there comes an actually shloka there. Same shamaslishya punashariram jatashrugriya vaniyaya vaktram vaktrena vaktram pratidhana shabdam karomi me janaya prahasram. So how do you see this, sir? So whenever so what's your opinion on this? So in this era, can we live such in such ways, sir?
First of all, I'll give you a historical context to it because I am more of a historian than a philosopher. I'll give you a very interesting data of Rishyasringa, then we'll enter into your question. So Rishyasringa is not only merely a person mentioned in the Mahabharata, he's also mentioned in the Buddhist literatures. It was very important. His story is often quoted throughout the history of India. He is mentioned in the Buddhist literature as Isi Sangha. Right? Rishyasringa became Isi Sangha. So that's a very interesting historical detail which I just wanted to touch upon it. Now, coming to your point, whether it is possible to live in this age of Kali Yuga 5124. Just for information, this is Kali Yuga 5124, 5124th year of Kali Yuga. So in this year, is it possible? I would say almost impossible, almost, nearly impossible. So that's a quick, short answer, nearly impossible. But yeah, we have some very great souls who we don't know probably that they exist. They leave, the common society, they leave their families, they leave society, and they just go to a remote place, away from everything, away from the common mass of people, and they live and they practice this life. So yeah, it is possible for some, but mostly it is not possible in this age.
So just another point, sir. So if that is the case, then if it is mentioned in Buddhist literature, then this kind of what to say re-engineering of our thought process of a Hindu community. Why was it so easy to do so, sir?
Could you even expand your question even further when you say re-engineering?
So,
If you
sir, my point is we have the big four, what we call in history, historians of India after this independence, like Romila Thapar, Irfan Habib, R.S. Sharma, and all. We know the big four, sir. So why was that easy to penetrate, sir? Because they wrote like as you mentioned earlier. So they said Yudhishthira took inspiration from Buddha and all such kind of things. So why was it so easy for them to penetrate into the Hindu minds that easily, sir?
why it was easy? There are different perspectives to it. I'll touch upon the various which I understand. One of them it was the political compulsion of the period. That's one thing, and another thing is that probably we didn't have social media at that point. That you could do anything, any damn thing, and it's very difficult to hold a person accountable. Newspapers were also not that easily accessible. FMs and TVs were not coming and all that. So seeing the political and the social situation of that period, I think it was somehow it happened that they made it happen because they had their political compulsions to make fake history and all that. But somehow now we are seeing a resurgence. So the good part is that we are now seeing a resurgence when people are now starting to question. We don't accept this as easily. Like that's why you see what I do is I present hard facts. Like for example, in my book, I have given more than 300 data points from various sources. And if you see the number of citations in my book, it is more than 1,000. So can you imagine that every single thing which I claim is not my claim, is actually a reference from an authorized research book or an ancient scripture, right, or an academic book. So everything which I say is from the sources. But during that period, you could say anything and you could get away with it. And you could also probably get a Padma Shri or Padma Bhushan also, if you could say any nonsense. And probably you might have got more chances of being a Padma Shri in that period if you could write something like this. I mean, some twisted facts like this. So the scenario of that period was like that. And people were also not that awakened regarding all this. But now, let's say, if we keep rattling about okay, why it happened, so we have to take lessons ki this was the thing, that this is what happened, and we take lessons from it, and we make sure that it doesn't happen again in the present and in the future. So I being in history, I see history as a teacher for me. It teaches me. History is one of the greatest teachers. What mistakes happened in the past, we understand, we take lessons from it, and we make sure it doesn't repeat in the present and in the future. So that's my short reply to your question.
Thank you, Prahlad. I will move to the next questioner. Arya, go ahead.
Thank you, moderators. Namaste, Chandra Ramesh ji.
Namaste.
I have a very small question for you.
Yeah, please.
Of course, we will find a lot of evidences of Mahabharata and Ramayana inside India. Are there any evidences where these epics have gone outside of India, and how far has it gone? Do we find evidences for it? This is my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this wonderful question. Actually, if you see, if I have a longer presentation, I do touch upon a few slides upon the global impact of the Mahabharata. Not what's happening right now in the last 1 or 2 centuries, but much ancient. So we have in China, in a manuscript called as the Spitzer manuscript, which is very famous, more than 2000 years old. So in Spitzer manuscript, we have parts of the Mahabharata. Some manuscripts of the Mahabharata are contained in that manuscript called as the Spitzer manuscript. So yes, Mahabharata has reached all the way till China. Then we all know about Angkor Wat and how they have recorded the Mahabharata war. And we all know Indonesia. Indonesia, we know that they follow Ramayana. But for your information, Indonesia also has a famous puppet dance, right? So in that puppet dance, they depict the Mahabharata war, and Duryodhana is on the one side, Pandavas are on the one side, and all that. So that's very famous in Indonesia, at least in some parts of it, right? And that was also impacting Malaysia and all that. So all the way till Southeast Asia, yes, we do had the impact of Mahabharata, And then in the West, the area where we got maximum invasions from. So in the West, if you see the entire country, which is now known as Pakistan, it's all Mahabharat Janapadas. When I say Mahabharat Janapada, we could say as a kingdom or a country. So 5 or 6 or maybe 7 of Mahabharata's Janapadas, Mahabharata's kingdoms, kingdoms during the Mahabharata period, right? They together combine and make what is today called as the country called Pakistan. Like one is Sindhu kingdom, one is Sauvira kingdom, and one is Kekaya kingdom, and so on. So we have Ambasta, another is Ambasta kingdom, right? Parts of Madra were also in Pakistan. I mean, we lost to Pakistan. So in that sense, and Kashmir, parts of Kashmir kingdom is currently in India, and parts of that Kashmir kingdom is now in Pakistan. So the point, what I'm trying to say is that entire of Pakistan was anyway, part of the Mahabharata's geography. Afghanistan, Gandhar kingdom, Gandhari is from there, Shakuni is from there. Then Bhalika, Balkh. Armenia had worship of Krishna. I've recorded it in my book. Armenia, all the way up till Iraq, north of Iraq. Armenia had worship of Krishna. Right? So when you see the impact of this text called Mahabharata was humongous, massive. Mahabharata, Krishna, Pandavas, and so on. So the point we could go even deeper, like for example, then we study the ethnographic data, how this particular tribe, their history is connected. Like for example, Iran, we have the Pahlavi. The Pahlavi is also a tribe mentioned in our scriptures, Pahlavis. Parsis, Parshva, mentioned in the Vedas. Parsis are mentioned in the mentioned as Parshvas. Parthians, there are a kingdom called as Parthians. They are again mentioned in our scriptures, part of Iran. So, the point what I'm trying to state is that, and Yavana, yes, Yavana. How could we forget the Yavanas? The Yavanas are mentioned in the Mahabharata as a tribe, as a kingdom. So Yavanas, they settled in parts of Turkey, what we today see as Turkey. And that's why in Turkey, you see there is a city called as Iona, Iona, Iona. That word traces from Yavana. Yavana, so Yavana or Yavana becomes Yauna, Yona, Iona. Right? So the impact of Mahabharata, its naming, culture, whatnot, it's humongous, it's massive. And today it's restricted to a small piece of land which we today know it as India. So that's my answer.
Thank you, Chandru sir. I have also read that there are evidences that you find about Ramayana in until Egypt, but there is still more details that has to be researched on it. But thank you so much for answering my question. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Arya. Vidya ji.
Yeah, actually connected to what Arya ji asked, it's to do with the history in Egypt. If you look at some of the names of the kings, you see it as Rameses. So I have heard that it's connected with Bhagwan Sri Ram himself. So would there be what is your opinion on that, Chandruji?
Well, to be honest and frank, I have not worked on the Ramayana much, so it would be difficult for me to comment. Yeah, but there are possibilities that this word could be connected to the Ramayana. But since I have not worked on the Ramayana, almost practically not much work done on the Ramayana. So with not much of research, I would not like to give a statement unless I have worked on it.
Fair enough. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Chandruji, actually, you have mentioned about different streams of research actually going in different directions towards Ramayana, even Mahabharata and all those things. During your research, did you try to actually collaborate the geography and actually the local folklore and things like that to corroborate actually the research as of the timing and the historicity of Mahabharata?
Yeah, so in chapter 13 of my book, I've dedicated it to the cultural aspect of the Mahabharata. Like, every particular region in India, be it north, south, west, east, central, or northeast, all of their history in some way or the other gets connected to the Mahabharata. Be it their naming, be it dance, art, music, right? Like, for example, the word Kerala, all the way down south, that word is mentioned in the Mahabharata. The earliest reference to the word Kerala, it's from the Mahabharata, it's not from anywhere else. But now the Kerala people, most of them do not understand the importance of this, that their history is intrinsically connected to the Mahabharata. You cannot separate Keralites from pan-India or pan-Bharata. We are hardcore Bharatiyas, Keralites. And if Tamil Nadu people, yes, they are also hardcore Bharatiyas. Their history is also connected to the Mahabharata. Cholas and Pandyas mentioned in the Mahabharata text. Even they connect their history to either Mahabharata or Ramayana. Andhra, that word is mentioned in the Mahabharata again. It's also mentioned in the Veda. Karnataka, Maharashtra, right? So when you try to trace their names, it's either in the medieval period, but most of them it's Buddhist or pre-Buddhist, their names, right? So Bihar word comes from Vihara, but the real name of before the Vihara is actually Magadha, Magad. Jarasandha was ruling there. Nepal is mentioned again in the Mahabharata. Nepa Janapad. The word Delhi doesn't mean anything, by the way. It's actually Indraprastha. right? Indraprastha. Mathura, the word is mentioned in the Mahabharat, Mathura. And that is even mentioned in the Greek literatures. Megasthenes, when he comes 2300 years ago, when he comes to India, he says, in Mathura, there is a river by the name of Jobares, which is Jamuna, and the Shorsenoi people are there. Means the Shursena people are there. Yadavas, basically. Yadavas are there in Mathura. And they're worshipping Hari or Krishna there. That's mentioned by Megasthenes. So when you see, and again, every region which you see in India, there somehow or the other, their history is intrinsically connected to the Mahabharata, connecting all the way to either of the Mahabharata characters. Like, for example, some of them celebrate a particular dance form, and that is connected to Bhima or Arjuna. Or they celebrate that, our ancestor had married one of the Pandavas or married Krishna. Right? Because Northeast, if you see in Northeast, the Manipuris connect their history to, the Arjuna coming there and marrying one of them. Right? So in that way, Chitrangada, her name was Chitrangada. So when you see that, you see every part of Bharat, their history is inseparable from Mahabharat. It cannot be separated. That's why the text is rightly called as Mahabharat. Mahabharat, the great Bharat. So in short, I would recommend that those who are serious to know their history, this book is a must purchase. Where you will see in my book, it's available on Amazon, where you will see all these facts, hard facts presented with citations, with references. If you think your children have to get faith in our scriptures, in our ancient tradition, on our ancient culture, spirituality, temples, etc., the first thing you have to clear that, bhai, this is not mythology, this is history. See, the evidences are here. Give it to your children, give it to your family members, give it to your relatives. If you're going somewhere, don't give some useless gifts like, sweets and all that. Give some good books, like maybe the Bhagavad Gita, maybe this book. Give them facts, give them something which they will read and their lives would be better, will transform for good. Right? So that's, in short, I would say that, this book has the potential to transform people's lives because they'll get faith on our ancestral culture and the Bhagavad Gita.
And more than that, be proud of our culture and being a Bharati, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'll go to the next question. Soldier, go ahead.
Namaste, Chandruji. I just came in to ask, Namaste, Ravishankar ji and Vidya ji, everybody. And I just came to ask one technical question. As a researcher, have you gone through, while researching Mahabharata, the technical aspect of the Mahabharata war? Nowadays, India is becoming a producer for all type of shastras and astras. In Mahabharata, it is clearly mentioned a lot of specialized weapons, just like Agnayastra and all this type of things. Have you gone through that aspect as well? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I have done work on some aspects of the weapons, like, the certain technologies which were used, like, for example, the coatings of certain metals and all that. But then, for me, the first important thing which I had to do is prove that this war is historical, right? So I did this in my book, but I definitely have this in my agenda, that going through the scientific aspects of Mahabharata and Vedas and collecting further information on this and probably bringing out in the form of a book or probably a documentary. Yes, it's going to come out in the form of a book and documentary, all these astras and all that. But to give you a very short glimpse, yes, I have worked to a reasonable extent on that this weapons and the ancient war technologies, if we follow it, it is definitely going to add value and definitely going to add strength, to our country, right? So there is no doubt about that. But again, it has to be also seen from the context of how it could be reapplied in the context of modern warfare. So again, that's a big subject, and I generally focus more on the part of historicity. So, but then, yeah, this is also a very important thing, that we see what all scientific evidences are there or scientific facts are there which we could use it in today's life. That is also very important, which we will bring it out in the form of books and documentaries in the upcoming years.
Thank you, Chandruji. After listening to you, in my mind it came that you can do that. You will be the person who can do it. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much for your compliment, love. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajanji. Ila, go ahead. I understand your name is Ila, I think. Please go ahead. You have to unmute your mic from the right-hand side, bottom of your screen. There is a mic button. You just touch it. Yeah, go ahead.
Namaste, Ramesh ji. This was very enlightening. I'm going to buy this book. And as you said, I always gift books related to our history, our culture to wherever I go. And it is widely appreciated. Sir, I'm also teaching small children Mahabharata and Ramayana. In my school, I've started a subject called Indian Culture Heritage. I had one question. We have heard, like my father used to tell us stories, and he used to tell us that Hercules is, if you see it in Sanskrit, it is called Hari Kulka Ish Balram, and he's always seen with a plow in Hercules photo. You will find it, he's with a bow. So, do you find any relation between Hercules and Balram, and if the empire went off till there, or maybe they considered him as one of his gods? Would like you to enlighten on that.
So, if you want to go deeper on this subject, I have, done a detailed analysis on this topic of Heracles, Hercules, Hercules.
Yeah.
Right. So probably you can contact the admins. They'll help you out with my contact details, and I'll share that with you. But in short, if I have to reply, the word Heracles, right, that is mentioned in the writings of Megasthenes and also later writers. Like, for example, when you see the war between Porus and Alexander, Porus is carrying a picture of Heracles.
Okay.
Right? There was a Greek god by the name of Heracles.
Yeah.
So, can we say that Porus was worshipping a Greek god? What do you think?
No idea, sir.
So, that's what I'm saying. Like, for example, if Porus is fighting against a Greek king, Alexander, why would Porus hold the picture or a portrait of a Greek god, Heracles?
Right. So that could
Doesn't
be
make sense. Doesn't make sense. So, who is this Heracles? That's very interestingly mentioned in the writings of Megasthenes in Indica, where he says that when he comes to Mathura, most probably he came to Mathura. In the city of Mathura, where the river Jobaris, Mathura we know it's Mathura clearly, okay? Jobaris. Now, Jobaris is was the extended mispronunciation of Jamuna. Jamuna, Jobaris. Beautiful Sanskrit words, they make it S, like for example, Ganga, they make it Ganges. Even Indians, when they go abroad, they say Ganges. What is Ganges? It is Ganga. So similarly, Jamuna, they make it as Jobaris. So in Mathura, there is a river by the name of Jobaris. And along the banks of the river Jobaris, the worship of Heracles was carried on by the tribe called as Sorsenoi. Now, who is Sorsenoi? Shorsena, of the Shursena Vamsha. Shorsena ka matlab hai of the Shursena, means belonging to the Shursena Vamsha. Now, Krishna belonged to the Shursena Vamsha. Balram belonged to the Shursena Vamsha. Got the point? So that's why Shursena Vamsha is prominent in Mathura region 2300 years ago when Megasthenes is coming to India. Now you will wonder, how come the Yadavas are in Mathura? They are supposed to be in Dwaraka, right? They were in Mathura. Jarasandha came and kept fighting for so many times, and Krishna decided, okay, let's all go and move to Dwaraka. We all know the story, right? In Mahabharata it's mentioned. They went and settled in Dwaraka, but then the Yadava civil war happened. When the Yadava civil war happened, most of the Yadavas killed each other.
That
and
was after Mahabharata war, right?
Yeah, after the Mahabharata war, 36th year of the Mahabharata war, this happened.
Yeah.
So when all of them killed each other, and the remaining Yadavas, the women and the children were remaining. So Krishna gave this duty to Arjuna. Dear Arjuna, you take all of them and go to Indraprastha. So all these remaining Yadavas, they went and settled in Indraprastha. So the Kurus went to Hastinapur and they ruled from Hastinapur, and the Yadavas were ruling at Indraprastha. And eventually, some of the Yadavas, a branch of them, settled back to Mathura. Why? Are bhai, our ancestor Krishna is belonging to this Mathura region. His ancestor Shursena is from this region, Mathura. Let's come back. We took a full circle from Mathura to Dwarka, back to Indraprastha, and then again to Mathura. So these Shurasena people, the Shursenas, are descendants of Shursena of Krishna who are settling in Mathura region. Now the question is, why these people who went a full circle, these Yadavas, why would they worship a Greek god called as Heracles? It makes no sense. And also, we don't have any historical evidence, be it an inscription, be it an ancient statue, or any other reference where we find that the Greek Heracles, the Greek god Heracles, being worshipped in India. We have no such evidence of that. So who is this Heracles? See, we also had a Greek god Heracles, and we also have Indian Heracles. How do we understand? We have to see that when these people, the Greeks, are coming to India, they found that the Indian Heracles is very similar to the Greek Heracles.
Okay.
Had very similar features. Okay, you know, ye bhi hamara hai, this is our Heracles. But actually they were referring to Krishna. And you may ask how it is not Balram. So the point is, in due course of time, Krishna's attributes and Balram's attributes got amalgamated, and they also had Greek legends and stories also amalgamated, and this new personality called as Heracles was created, which we came to know in later period of time, and eventually he came to be known as the great Hercules. Okay, so that's how the Hercules thing traces its influence. It has a strong influence from India, from Krishna and Balram. So Hercules is from Heracles. Heracles is from the Sanskrit Hari Kula Isha. Hari, who is the Kula Isha of the Shursena people. Hari, who is the Kula Isha of the Shursena people. Hari Kula Isha Shursena. Hari, who is the Kula Isha of the Shursena people. So that's how it connects. So basically, if you want to go deeper into the subject, I have shown, you know, how in different channels, you know, like for example, there is one channel how it's getting influenced, the Greek stories. Then we have another channel from another culture which is impacting the Greeks. Another from another different channel impacting the Greeks, and Greek gods are getting, you know, like their identities and you know, how they are described and all that. How it's getting, like for example, the Mitra. Mitra is the Vedic Mitra, sun god. Right, so that's there all the way up till London. You know, in London we have Mitra temple. How many of us know? London, right next to the palace of the Queen, we have a temple called as Mithraeum. It's a 2000-year-old Roman temple constructed by the Romans for Mitra, god Mitra, Surya. So we have to study that, how these different gods, you know,
that is god Mitra, not Surya. Is the opposite of what?
Pranshu, please actually hold on.
Yeah.
Currently, actually, he is answering a question from Ila. Your chance will come. Continue, please.
Okay. So the word Mitra finds its traces in the Veda, right? So that's a reference to the sun god, Surya. So that's how we see, when we study this, how these different, you know, cultures and gods, they got, you know, transformed, and they're getting adapted into different cultures. It's very interesting. So if you want to study deeper, I have a complete research seminar on this, which the admin will help you out with the link.
Okay. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Ila. And the contact details for Chandru Ramesh is in the group chat. You can take the email from there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for the question. The next one is Pranshu. You can ask your question. Yeah.
So actually, I just wanted to correct. Mitra is not sun god. He's connected to the Varun. He's one of the 12 Aditya, but he's not the sun god really. Surya Vivaswan is a separate sun god. But anyway, that's not the question here. So the question is, the Manipur you're connecting to the modern Manipur is because it should, because all the description of Arjun's journey in both Adipar and Ashmetik Parv, it looks like it's on the peninsula towards the Coromandel coast. And the Pandyas have the statement that, Manipur, Manaluru, was the original place from where Babruwan's descendants, right? So they basically claim descent from Pandavas through Manaluru, which is in Dakshinatya Mahabharat. It's not called Manipur, it's called Manaluru. So do you think it's the modern Manipur or is it the one on the Coromandel coast?
Based on the geographical data of the Mahabharata, it's most likely that it is modern Manipur.
No, it is not. So I'm saying if you follow the geographical data in Mahabharata, both in Adipur and Ashmadipur, he's actually in the peninsula. He's actually to the south and the west.
You can give this. Probably you can give me the exact data. Why you think it is
I'll send you the details. Okay. Yeah, I'll send you the details. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And regarding Mitra, also I would request you to watch my podcast on. In detail, I have covered why this particular god Mitra is actually Surya and how Greeks have worshipped him that way, and how it's found in across different cultures, the so-called pagan culture. We don't call it pagan, but the Abrahamic religions call it as the pagan culture. So I request you to watch.
He was never worshipped by the Greeks. He was worshipped by the Romans because after the Romans started taking away Persian provinces. But anyway, that's another story.
Yeah. I mean, like he said, actually, it is on a separate podcast, and you can check it out. And if there is any discrepancies you feel, you can definitely communicate through the email provided.
I'll do that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Pranshu. Yeah, Vidya.
Yes, Chandruji, now you've been leading the Historica Foundation. So I'm sure you must be coming across a lot of young aspiring, historians who would be wanting to travel your path. So what, according to you, what are the kind of, methods that they use, or the technologies that they use for the present research in history, especially our ancient history?
You see, a lot of exciting technologies are coming up. I generally am not going into the details of it because we are working in closed circuit about what technologies we are using and all that. We are in a phase of history which, historically speaking, it's huge, it's massive, it's unbelievable. Why? Because a lot of history is going to come out very quickly in the next decade with the progress of technology. It will be very fast. What we did not do in last hundreds of years will happen in few decades, probably 1 or 2 decades also, if we do it nicely. So that's the exciting phase of history which we are in right now, and I'm really excited to be part of it, a small instrument in it, in the service of dharma, in service of Bhagwan. I'm engaged in that. So in short, I would say that yes, a lot of youngsters are very excited about the prospects. In India, being a historian or a history researcher, archaeologist is not that awe-inspiring. Like for example, if you're an Egyptologist, it's considered very respectful. Wow, we are researching on Egypt, on ancient Egypt. But that kind of a position, be it financially, be it in terms of the career and all that, is not that lucrative right now in India. But definitely things will change, and already we are seeing a positive change coming, especially with Sonoli finds, and the temple is coming up now, and people are really excited now. Okay, let's get the facts straight, let's get history out. So I'm really excited to be a small part of it, and that's it. That's in short.
Thank you so much, and wishing you and Historica all the very best, especially your entire team. So thank you. Your work is excellent. So I mean, no words to describe, and wishing you all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chandruji. You mentioned Sinoli. I always feel like our archaeology, the excavations and everything is there is a lot to catch up. Whereas actually the historians are gone with the technology wise in terms of DNAs or geography, hydrology and things like that. There are a lot of researchers going on, and they're bringing out a lot of data in those sectors. But the archaeology wise, actually, like you mentioned, one of the main streams of the science that we should follow is kind of lacking, if you ask me. Your opinion on it?
To tell you frankly, most of ancient India is still not excavated. Right? I have a citation from an American archaeologist, where that archaeologist is saying that 90%, 90% of ancient India is still not excavated. So can you imagine 90% of ancient India? It's massive. Of course, it could be 70% or 80%. We don't know. But it's likely that majority of ancient India is still not excavated. Either it's underground, most of it is underground, below ancient building, below modern buildings, below farmlands, below forest, or in some cases it's underwater like Dwarka, Pumbuhar, right, Kumari, and all these ancient sites which got submerged. So we have all these ancient sites which are either submerged or underground. So a lot of prospect is there. If we see an awakening in India to bring out the history, it will be massive, no doubt, for this country, and a lot of artifacts which are still not excavated in terms of ancient inscriptions, coins, or potteries. I mean, the future is really, you see, finding the past is going to be very exciting in the future, right? Finding the past is already exciting now, and it will be more exciting in the future. So that's in short my reply to this.
Thank you. Vidya ji.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ravi.
Yeah, I think actually we probably is coming up to the last question, most likely. My question is, there are a lot of academics, both inside India and outside India, who are actually putting out all these disparaging, convoluted theories about our scriptures and history and itihas and all those things. And now, slowly but surely, actually, they are getting exposed and all. Recently, a book came out, The 10 Heads of Ravana and all, depicting each one of them, both inside and outside. What do you think is their motive behind actually doing this, these academics? What do they try to gain out of this?
They gain money. That's it. They gain money. Some of them have intrinsic dislike towards India or its culture, and feed that with money, and they are doing their stuffs. That's a very short.
If you could expand actually on, I know the answer or kind of understand actually what it is, but for the sake of the audience, actually, if you explain how money is involved in this and what makes it lucrative.
See, academicians can function only if there is a financial backing to them, be it an academic institution, or be it a wealthy individual who supports them. Research cannot happen without wealth, because a researcher has to, like in my experience, I had a very favorable family to do my work, so I could do it. But otherwise, if a person who has a poor financial backing, it's not possible to do research, first of all. So you need good finances to even do something in research line. And to do an excellent work, you have to be fed with more money. So there is actually an entire system which Rajiv Malhotra ji has exposed in his works. Probably his books are the best to understand this entire structure of how anti-India works. But in short, what I understand is that the agenda is clear, that there is an inbuilt dislike towards ancient India, its culture, and all that. That comes deeply when you study that comes deeply from the notion of hating paganism, because people hate paganism, right? They hate paganism because paganism is a direct threat to the notion of the god, like this is the god. So when you have paganism, which means that worship in the form of statues or deities and temples, that's a direct threat. So person who is raised up in that background, and he naturally has a dislike. Not every one of them, small percentage, or maybe a middle person. I don't know exactly the percentage, how much it is, but there are some percentage of people who have a dislike. So they are being fed with money, and they bring out their writings, and they try their best to attack India.
Yeah. In short, actually, there are sponsors who have their own agendas and actually their own interests, which they use using these academicians, isn't it? Vidya, please.
Yeah, as Ravi had mentioned, it's the last question, but I just need to ask you this, Chandruji. You've been working for so many years, and I'm sure it was definitely not an easy task at all. But definitely, you would have faced a lot of hurdles. So, for a historian like you, especially for the present generation, what are the kind of obstacles that you face? Because we do know that there are a lot of you know other historians which are providing other narratives, and we know that they are able to do so because of certain backing that they have. But for historians who are on the path of dharma, what are the obstacles that you've been facing?
The biggest obstacle is that is the financial support. We don't have uh, the Hindu community coming and standing behind us and saying, "Okay, you do this work. It's very important. We'll give you the backing." We don't have that kind of a structure, or at least it's not up to the mark. That's the biggest hurdle which we face. Like, for example, I'm now trying to make documentaries on ancient India, which will create awareness about evidences of Mahabharata, science in ancient India, and so on. So it's really difficult to even convince Hindus to donate for this cause. They say, "Oh, what is the point? Let's our jobs are important, our businesses are important, and all that." So, biggest hurdle is finance, and another hurdle is institutions. We do not have sufficient institutions who work on this line. So again, that's a big hurdle which we face. And another hurdle we face is that we do not have unity. We find that scholars working in the dharmic line trying to pull each other down. I'm right, you're wrong, and all that. Like, for example, even in the case of the dating of the Mahabharata, you might have seen so many disagreements, debates, and all that. But my point was, okay, date of Mahabharata is very important, no doubt. But more important is to prove that this Mahakavya is a historical. First, let's prove that. Let's fight date in the second round, So that's why I worked more on the dating part. Sorry, worked more on the evidence part. Dating is one chapter, but that's not my entire book. So that's an attitude that we unfortunately face, trying to pull down each other, and that's also there, unfortunately. And most importantly, I find the biggest hurdle is definitely on the part of structures and finances. So this is what I find is lacking among the Hindu community, and people like us who give up our careers and jobs and businesses, everything, to work for the Hindu cause, and when then we see behind Hindus are there, very few. Most of them are busy in their lives. So that's kind of disappointing.
Thank you, Chandruji.
Thank you, Chandruji. And actually, I do hope people are we are having a renaissance or a revival in our country, and this also contributes to actually researchers and everything. And people will be more aware and actually more interested in these things, so that they would donate and finance such initiatives. It was a pleasure to have you with us. It's been a very informative session, and we had very good questions from the audience also. I hope you enjoyed this session.
Yeah, definitely. That was enlivening. Thank you.
Vidyaji.
Oh, thank you, Chandruji. Thank you. It was a very enlightening session, and we wish you all the very best. And I'm praying that all your hurdles are cleared. You're able to go forward, and there are more young aspiring historians who take after you. And we have, like you said, the remaining 90% of Bharat is discovered, and it comes out totally.
Yeah, and we do hope we will be able to host you again in our platform.
Sure. That would be a pleasure.